great subject, and also definitely one of the high points of being a chef. Getting out, seeing the world, meeting great people, learning a hell of a lot about your trade, but also about people and cultures, and I guess yourself and life in general. When I started out, I started working full-time in the kitchen when I was 16 years old, and straight away I was already working with people that come from other countries. Our maitre d's was Spanish. One of the other chefs was Welsh. So there was a couple there, not a lot, but pretty quickly I realized that chefs, I knew you could travel the world. I knew you could get jobs in, I guess, almost any country cooking, and that was always, I guess, part of the dream, or the reasons why I wanted to get into it. Then actually working with people from other countries that had other experiences, that knew different ways of doing things, even from a young age, and talking about their experiences, that sort of piqued my interest. And then the chef running that kitchen, I think either worked in another country or was on his way to another country. At one point he ended up in a bigger city and working in a 5-star hotel, and that was another thing, another dream. Sort of saw that quickly as well, that you could advance from a smaller town to the big cities and the big luxury hotels that seemed like a totally different world from where I was. And already at 16 years old I saw somebody that had been teaching me was talking about travel and moving to bigger cities. The excitement of that, the adventure, I guess, and seeing their excitement, and that gave me some ideas, and I guess some hopes and dreams as well. So the way I did it is through my cooking school that I was going to. I did really quite well. I was competing in competitions in my second year already, and winning medals. And even in my third year, same thing again, cooking, more competitions, more medals, and achieving quite well. And the final year I was top of my class, and something at the end of that course was, after a 3-year course, was to get a scholarship to work in Switzerland. And this was a scholarship not really for money or training. It was a job contract in a hotel through the Swiss hotel organisation that had a deal with my cooking school where I'd been learning. And to get that, you had to do an interview. I have been doing quite well, I guess, in your studies, but also you needed some decent experience. Where I'd been working, my last year of my apprenticeship, I moved up to the big city. Couldn't wait, and got up there, and I ended up working 1.5 years in a 5-star hotel with a lot of Europeans, people from around the world, and went through, I guess, an amazing period of growth as a chef, but also as a person. I moved into that environment when I was 18, suddenly working in a brigade of 45 chefs from multiple countries. Head chef was Spanish, the head pastry chef was French, the sous chef was Swiss, another one of the chef de parties was Swiss, another chef de partie was Italian, another chef de partie was German, another chef de partie was German. We had a lady in the larder, was from England. What else do we have? We had a few from the Philippines. We had a pretty good mix of people working in that hotel, and that was just in the kitchen. And this scholarship that I applied for and I got was to Switzerland. So I'd already been working with this bunch of people from Europe, and from me working in New Zealand to go to the other side of the world as a chance. At that time I was 20 years old, so 2 weeks after my 20th birthday I get on an aeroplane to Switzerland, one-way ticket. I had enough money to survive for the first month or so before I got my first wage, credit card, backpack. Sold my car, sold my bits and pieces, had enough money to do that, and I had a job contract and somewhere to stay through the hotel when I was going to get there. And I knew one friend that had already done the same scholarship, and he'd already been there for about 8 months, and he was going to meet me at the airport. Said goodbye to friends, family, and I got on the airplane and went to the other side of the world. I had my knives, I had my uniforms. I didn't really need them, the hotel supplied them, and I ended up in a kitchen where... Sorry about that. Yeah, times have moved on since I was telling these stories. Kids in the house. So yeah, I got my way over there, and I ended up in a situation where more or less everybody is speaking Swiss German. I didn't understand that, and I realized pretty quickly that I'd made a pretty huge decision, and I was way out of my comfort zone. I now then had to learn how to adapt in this totally different environment on the side of a hill, in a 4-star hotel with a whole lot of Swiss and German and Austrian chefs and people from all over the continent. We had Portuguese, Croatian, Serbian, Italians, French, Dutch, Spanish. We had, or back then it was from, say, East Germans. I remember them as well. People were speaking 3-4 languages. It was an amazing environment to end up in. And then I had to cook, and then I realized that they were, when I was watching what they were doing, how they were doing it, looking at the dishes they were doing, almost immediately I could start helping, doing work, producing. I couldn't talk to them, but there were 2 English who were actually working in the kitchen as well, so I got things translated and got some basic instructions. But the guy I ended up working with was an Italian from Südtirol, which is in the north of Italy, and his native language is German. He could speak Italian as well. His name was Hubert, and this guy couldn't speak almost a word of English, so it was hand signals, pointing. He'd fly off the handle, scream, yell, laugh, everything. Just full on emotions all day from that guy. And I learned. I was standing in the larder, so it was the cold kitchen, salads, sauces, entrees, desserts we did as well. And I felt really comfortable there. I was just watching the way he was putting the dishes together, saw the different types of foods he was doing. I could pick that up quick. So quickly I was helping him, assisting him, and I'd already been in that position. I knew the brigade of the kitchen, I knew the way things work, I knew my place, his place. I was under him, I was in a supporting role for him. I had to support him to help him succeed in any way. If that means cleaning, just assisting him, making sure he's got the things he needs. A lot of cleaning. If there's nothing to do, you clean. There's never nothing to do in a kitchen. You should never be idle. And that's the way I was able to show to him that I was there to work. I knew the rules of the kitchen, I knew the hierarchy, I knew my place. I would assist him and get some respect from him by assisting him to make him succeed, make his life easier. And he'd give me a bit more and we'd misunderstand. He'd yell, I wouldn't understand. We'd both laugh, and then he would do it again and we'd fix it. Next time I'd do it, and then maybe I'd get it right, and then he'd give me a pat on the back. And slowly we started to find a way to work together. And it was almost like some weird type of magic was happening. In my head, for him, he's probably taught a lot of foreigners that couldn't speak his language before. I didn't know, but for me it was the first time I'd experienced that. Not being able to talk, getting paid to do work in a totally different environment. So I'm talking about chefs and their travels, or travel as when you are a chef. That's one of my key stories. I worked there for a year and a half. I ended up working right through the gamoche, the larder. I ended up being in charge of the pastry and all the desserts and baking. Morning teas, afternoon teas, Christmases, sorry, not Christmas, but I mean to say weddings, functions. I did pate and terrine courses and an amazing hotel with some of the best Swiss Olympic team chefs to learn pate and terrines. So learning pate en croûte and ballantines and galantines from an old chef who could hardly stand, and with a younger chef helping him, but getting that knowledge of how to do these things the traditional way. I learned a hell of a lot. I had a hell of an opportunity, but battling. One of the battles was I was trying to change some of the classical and traditional things, and I think I told that story on the books that I got forced to buy the Swedish cookbook, sorry, the Swiss cooking, say Bible, Eugene Pauli, and I had to follow all the recipes from that book. I wasn't allowed to make up my own ones, because I did start making my own ones, and where I had been learning and cooking, we were a lot more open to new ideas and fusion cooking and mixing colours and flavours, also flavours and say food cultures, breaking the rules, mixing European with Asian and things like that. Switzerland, I tried some of that, it just didn't go down well at all. So yeah, they had to keep me on track by giving me a book and say don't cook anything unless it's in there. And I hated that, but that's part of the discipline, and learning the discipline to actually do it. Do things you do not believe in and you do not want to do, and do them anyway. That lesson was a very important one. Do the same thing in a project 6 months ago. 44 years old. Bite the bullet, do it, don't believe in it, you do it anyway and deliver. You're doing a job. Without kicking up a big shit about it. You make your case, but you do it anyway. So those were some life lessons that I learned as far as travelling as a chef, and even as a young chef. I thought that was valuable from my perspective, being there at 20 years old. It was 2 weeks after my 20th birthday. I was gone. I was there, alone. And then I started earning money, and the money in Switzerland was pretty good for my age. I never had 2 days off in a row, more or less. It was always split days off. Never had any weekends. It would be Tuesday, Thursday, or Monday, Wednesday, or things like that. I'd just get on a train. I'd find a place on a map. I'd get up early, and I'd go. And I'd get a train to some other city in Switzerland. eat lunch, walk around, get the map, have a look, come back again, exploring on my own. All of the people I knew were my workmates, and we never got the days off together. We spent a lot of time socialising, basically drinking after work. We'd go to the same restaurant in this little village. We'd get there between 12 and 1 o'clock. We'd sit there for an hour or two. They'd close it up sort of at 1:32 in the morning. And a lot of beer, a lot of drinks, a lot of de-stress, a lot of learning the language, a lot of laughs, a lot of listening to the language, sharing. It was a special time, and some friends I made during that time I've still got today. 24 years later, I'm still in contact with one of those, my sous chef, one of the guys in charge of the kitchen, the shift leader, ended up being the best man at my wedding about 10 years after that. Travelling as a chef is, I'd say, vital. So after a year and a half there, I came back to New Zealand, not intending on working, just for a holiday. It was the end of my contract, came back for personal reasons, and then I ended up getting a job straight away. I had a chef friend was running a restaurant, his own restaurant, a cafe restaurant. He'd just broken his Achilles heel. I went in to say hello to him. He's sitting in the kitchen trying to tell some young buck to cook, and he's watching his business go down the drain. And he just looked at me, he goes, "Thank God you're here." I'm not here to work. And after a while I said, "Well, what time do you need me here tomorrow?" And I started cooking for him, and I saved his restaurant. Basically did almost 4 weeks for him until he could actually walk and hobble and do it himself. I got rave reviews right up in the paper. I saved him, and that guy I've still got contact with as well. So I'll go on to friends in another podcast, but this is so travel. Then I went back. I had another offer to work in Switzerland, another job lined up. I could have gone back. I did my first year and a half as first year was a work permit for a year, then I did another 6 months extension. After that, when I'm back in New Zealand quickly, then I went back to Switzerland, and I had another job, but I had already met my Swedish wife now, and I ended up going up to Sweden. I was thinking about Canada, and I ended up in Sweden for quite a few years, in competitions, and was back in New Zealand. I've worked as 5-star hotels and sous chefs and head chefs and things like that. I've competed in competitions in Australia and in Germany as well, and also been a judge for cooking competitions in Sweden and in New Zealand. So the countries I've worked in is New Zealand, Switzerland, Sweden, as a chef. The plan was about maybe 5 to 10 countries within 10 years. That didn't quite work out. But from what, that's my experience. That's, I guess, 3 countries, different stints, on and off. So travelling backwards and forwards, getting work. There's always work. Good friends along the way. New experiences, new tastes, new flavours. And during that time, so that's my travels, but what that does is it exposes you to people that are always also on their travels, making good friends, and then them leaving, working alongside people that are in one country but have worked somewhere else, and they're bringing what they've learned from another country to you, and you have a period of time together, maybe working on a menu for a month, and you'll learn things from them, and you may teach them a thing or two. So for me, travel was all about learning, and traveling as a chef is all about learning about yourself, but also almost the senses. So smells, tastes, the feeling of different textures. If you're just taking some vegetables and fruits, the way that they're different from country to country, from season to season, you learn so much more depth in the ingredients, but also there's so much familiarity from country to country. You still make the sauce the same way. A bechamel is the same wherever you go, or should be. People say that, I say should be. There is a correct way of making it, the French way, but then people try and change that, and you end up in quite often heated debates over methods and recipes, and that's when a lot of chefs can really get wound up and great arguments happen and fire and emotions come out, pots go flying and dishwashers get involved. It can get crazy, and quite often it's all to do with a way something is cooked, or the way, a method of somebody cooling something down in the wrong way, or not looking after it in the way they thought, or not covering it in the right way, or somebody doing half of the job and somebody else having to pick it up, but it's not done the way they like it, or the way that they feel comfortable to use, and shit hits the fan. It's a high stress environment, and there's emotions that are just rife, and seeing, and then misunderstandings because of language. It can just get crazy, but normally at the end of the day you just let all that go and just go to the pub and have a beer, or three, and you may have been just at each other's throats, but at the end of the day a lot of people don't have anybody to go home to. It's quite, I wouldn't say lonely, but you are alone a lot in that situation. A lot of people are going home to empty apartments, empty rooms, no family, and that situation. So you stay at the pub a bit later. Your workmates, and then when talking the front of house and waitresses and things like that, they become your almost your family, your friends, or they are your friends, they are your workmates, and then when you get home there's nobody there, and then you go back and do it all again. So travel, I would totally recommend it. I would also say that in some ways it can ruin your maybe perception of what your life would be like. What I mean by that is you think, oh, I'm from one country, I'm going out to travel, I'm going to come back and I'll stay the same, I'll be the same person with new inputs, new experiences, but what I didn't realize is that you change, and it changes you. You become a different person, different values, where you came from, and you start to challenge those maybe values and thoughts, and you end up taking on other ways of thinking, other ways of doing things, and then the day you do go home, you realise how much you've changed, and suddenly home's not the same anymore. So you want to get out and go back out there again. You want to meet those people that are in the same situation, the loners that are living I'd say sometimes it's an extreme lifestyle. A lot of it is adrenaline. There's a lot of adrenaline, a lot of stress, a lot of excitement in the business. You work hard, you play hard quite often, and you are separated from the rest of, say, society, Monday to Friday, 9 to 5 thing. So you become part of that, and becoming part of that in a different country is exciting and addictive for a lot of people. And then travel with things like cruise ships. People get addicted to that and that lifestyle. Many chefs that just do it again and again. They come back on work in big 5-star hotels, and I've met them, and they just can't wait to get back out on those boats and that lifestyle, those long contracts. So it's exciting. So suddenly going back to where you came from, if you weren't brought up in that industry, it just seems boring. You want to keep that going. So then suddenly you make choices and life choices, and you get older, and then that travel maybe becomes harder. You get a partner, you end up feeling, okay, I'm now in a relationship outside of where I used to come from, times past. Not as easy to get up and travel. You start that itch to travel, you just can't scratch it. And then there's, you're battling with those things. You see other chefs coming and going, and I've got a job on this in this country, I'm going in 2 months. You see their excitement and you think, damn, I want to go too. But as you start to settle down, it becomes harder. So young man's game, travelling, cooking, it's amazing. There's no way I regret what I did. Got some pretty amazing stories and memories, and some great people I've respected. And the travelling side of it, if we go to some things like visas and things like that, you have to explore exactly what you can, where you can go from with the passport or wherever you're from. So your country and what agreements are there. If you've got a specific country you want to go to, then looking at what that country's immigration laws are, and sometimes depends on what type of workers they need. Sometimes it can be quite hard getting in as a chef. It is one of those, depending on the country. If they've got high tourism, then you're probably a lot easier, because they'll be just craving more and more chefs to work in nice big resort hotels and things like that, and that can be quite a lovely, easy way to get in. If you're in other countries that are a bit more established and not so tourism focused, then it can be a lot harder to get, because there's normally enough chefs to go around from the local market to serve those restaurants. So that can start to be harder. So then you start looking at your family situation. Have you got mother or father that you get a passport or an agreement to work there for a period of time? And then once you've done that, always thinking, how do I hang on to this and get the next step? So you start to understand the system, those applications, what's needed. You leverage as much of your own family contacts as you can. Work contacts, work establishments can help you with your immigration papers or work permits. I've done that before as well. Getting into Sweden, I had a work offer, and they wrote a letter to the immigration, which helped me then get a work permit. And in that situation, then if you've got a de facto relationship with somebody that you can prove that you've been living together, you look at the rules of that country for that. Some of them don't have to make sure that you have to be married. You can actually just prove you've been in a stable relationship with her for 2 years. If you end up in that situation, then that can be leveraged to keep work permits if you want to stay working for a longer period of time, and then even further down the track looking at citizenship. But just straight travel, all depends on what your passport is and what you can actually get, where you can get to. Doesn't have to be too far. Getting out of it, you can pull the whole thing back as just getting out of the town that you grew up in, where you were learning, getting into the bigger cities, getting out to the resort areas or the tourism areas of your own country, getting to where you'll see or be working with foreigners. I've had guys that never wanted to leave the country, but they really enjoy working in the big 5-star hotels or resort areas where there are a lot of foreigners, and they're learning from them. I recall one guy ended up having kids early and had quite a few kids. He'd never worked overseas, but he worked in a 5-star hotel for 15-20 years and was learning from these guys that came, that never stopped coming from Europe. he always had a dream to do it, but for his family situation he couldn't, but he worked in that environment with foreigners the whole time. So you can still get a dose of that and learn a lot as well. It's another way of doing it. What else could I cover before I start to wrap this up? Money. Yeah, all different. Depends how desperate you are. Quite often the first contract you got to take what you can get, and then prove yourself, and then once you know that you know their recipes, you know their food, you know their processes, you know you're delivering, then it's not, I never really did it, I was pretty useless around that, but you can step into the chef's office and ask for a pay raise, and he might throw something at you and tell you to piss off, or you can actually tackle it another way, as in if you've got a sous chef or executive sous chef on your side, and just sort of mention it to them, and then they'll maybe mention it to the head chef, and it'll come back that way, and then suddenly it might just turn up in your pay packet. I've seen things like that happen as well. So that sort of depends. One thing I'd avoid is, sad but true, is getting in there and trying to tell them what to do, and then trying to say it's my right to have this, it's my right to have that. You are really at the end of the day still just a guest working in their country, getting into any country and trying to tell them that your way's a better way doesn't normally go down very well. I've tried it, I've failed multiple times, and I've seen other people try and fail. There's subtle ways of doing it, but trying to force it down anybody's throat you'll just end up in pain. I've felt the pain many a time and seen it. It didn't stop me from trying. Not at all. Screaming at an Italian, telling him I can make a better Italian dressing than him didn't go down too well, and then having a German trying to settle me down, saying that mine actually tasted better, but I still got to let the Italian guy do it his way. It was very ironic. But yeah, travel, do it, and also keep your wits about you. Stay safe, street smart. You'll learn that as well. Yeah, don't get taken for a ride if you get offered a job and there's certain things, accommodation and things like that. Make sure you're ticking all of those boxes. You know what you're getting, when you're going to get it, and don't get taken advantage of, and stay safe. Always good to have another person in that country that has some skills and understanding of it, and also somebody you can trust to help you out of a tight spot. Going into an environment where you literally don't really know anybody, then you're going to have to fall back on like HR people in the hotel, or people if you go into small restaurants. They recommend that you have an extra person, because strange things can happen, and you can end up in sort of twist situations with employers sometimes, but even some of the people you're working with. So you keep yourself safe and let people know what you're doing or where you are, and enjoy the hell out of it. If anybody's got any comments, be keen to hear where you are, where you're working, and your experiences. Like I say, I miss it, but I did my time and I enjoyed it. Right then, Chef's Life, the truth. That was travel. Thanks.